I get a lot of people asking me about NVIDIA. Everywhere I go, like everybody's talking about NVIDIA. Drew, who produces my show, he's very lucky he bought NVIDIA. So he's enjoying watching it go up, up and away. Of course, it's coming up on a stock split. You and I were talking about this actually via text the other day, and you were making a really important and interesting point. You even actually sent me a meme, which was great. It was like NVIDIA holding up the rest of the stock market. Walk us through, Rob, for the viewers and for the subscribers. By the way, if you haven't subscribed, go to 76research.com. How significant and important this one company happens to be right now.
Yeah, NVIDIA is extremely important to the market overall. It's just an amazing story, and we've been digging into it. It's funny. Yeah, my son the other day, who 12 years old, texted me on his way home from school, "Dad, I need to buy NVIDIA. The market closes in 39 minutes. It's up 5%. So it's everyone's talking about
it. You're training them well, Rob. You're training them young and well, right? But can you still buy it, by the way, right now? I mean, what did you tell your son?
Well, that was a longer conversation with him, but
no, we want to hear, because like some people are looking at this, right? And they're like, wait a second, this thing is on fire. And it's hard. I mean, I know that you bought it at a really good opportune time. I wrote about it actually, I want to say this is like 2.5 years ago. So again, an opportune time, as I was just looking at the quote unquote metaverse, AI, et cetera. This is right before Facebook named itself Meta. And I was just saying, hey, this is an opportunity. This is actually a whole new thing that's going to be happening. And we can't even fully anticipate the consequences of it. But here's the offshoots of opportunity. And NVIDIA was one of them.
Yep. So, we'll have a nice kind of full explanation and report on NVIDIA in the 76 report, which we'll be getting out later today for those who subscribe to it. But I think it's an important story for a lot of reasons. First, it's just such an exceptional commercial success story and investment success story. The numbers are staggering. 300,000% total return since inception in 1999. We have a little table I put together. $10,000 invested at the IPO is now worth over $31 million.
Whoa.
It's just mind-boggling. But even in more,
wait, say again. $10,000 invested in the IPO of NVIDIA is now worth
over $31 million.
Oh my gosh!
But even just over the last 5 years, $10,000 turned into $327,000. So it has just been an extraordinary story. It's a $3 trillion company now by market cap, second largest behind Microsoft at the moment, ahead of Apple. And you mentioned, I actually did buy it as part of a basket of tech stocks that I bought in late 2022 when they were all selling off. It's the best investment I've ever made personally. It's up about tenfold from that level. I guess I'm not that proud of it though, since I really didn't buy quite enough. Who did?
Well, diversification, right? Diversification.
Yeah. And to be fair, I knew it was a great, very strong player in the video gaming market, which is how I think it was primarily conceived at that time. The shares were down 65%. So it was sort of, taking advantage of the tech wreck at the time. But I think that's maybe a good starting point to start talking about NVIDIA, because really from that whole time frame from 1999 when Jen-Hsun Huang founded the company until just a few years ago, it was really all about gaming and graphics. They are the pioneer of the GPU, the graphic processing unit, and really invented this idea of parallel computing. So, at the risk of I don't want to get too technical, but you've got the CPU in the computer, which is like the brain, and then the GPU.
You were talking about the GPU, the graphics processor, and the dual computing.
It's important to understand. One of the reasons I think we really need to talk about NVIDIA is it's important to understand what this company is, because it's leading the AI revolution. So what exactly is it doing? And what they did was they took this innovation, the graphic processing unit, which allows for parallel computing. And that was really developed for the PC or the laptop to do high speed mathematical calculations that enabled computer graphics. And now they're applying that to the data center. So, it's taking it outside of the machine, putting it in the data center where it's doing these super intense super computing, what they call accelerated computing, and performing these high speed mathematical computations. And that's what's permitting AI, which requires that, extreme degree of computing. So, what's remarkable in that journey from 112, where the stock bottomed in October of 2022, to where we are today, which is 1200, that tenfold increase. It was really that transition from being kind of a video gaming business primarily to this explosive growth in what they call their data center segment. And you really just had enormous revenue growth, and it's driving enormous earnings growth. And they've been meeting and exceeding estimates. So what you have now is a stock that's trading at about 45 times current year earnings, but earnings are expected to double again over the next 3 years. So if people are buying the stock today, they're basically saying, look, these forecasts that all the analysts have, that people have for this, very strong earnings growth, they're going to come true. And by the way, if we fast forward 3 years, the multiple will still reflect even more growth to come in the years ahead. So that's sort of your path to doubling. If you buy it today, that's kind of mathematically how you get there, just really through earnings growth.
So, there's other semiconductor companies out there that are also involved in the AI space. Why is it that Nvidia is so dominant? Were they just sort of first to market? Do they have the best processing units? I mean, when you compare and contrast, say, with Intel and others, like, why is it that Nvidia is so successful?
Yeah, I think it mainly has to do with that idea that they dominated graphic processing units, parallel computing, and really have just this huge technological edge over others. Now AMD is a competitor.
Yep.
Intel wants to compete, but they're the 800-pound gorilla. And what people who are bullish on Nvidia, like a lot of people clearly are, what they're really kind of emphasizing is that the industry is really standardizing around the technology, the kind of the proprietary Nvidia technology. And like what we've seen with these other mega cap tech stocks, it's all about network effects, right? It's like winner take all economics. So when you look at why is Alphabet or Google so valuable and dominant in search, or Microsoft, with operating systems, or Apple with the iPhone, right? Everything kind of builds, the ecosystems build around these technologies, and they get entrenched, and there's long-term growth, and that's how you get multi-trillion-dollar market caps.
So that brings me to some concerns, basically, that the administration has, right? So there was a headline out this week that the administration is trying to basically look at whether or not there's any antitrust issues vis-a-vis Nvidia and sort of this AI sector overall. Is this something that, in your view, like, hinders the stock? I looked at it. I saw the headline. It broke one evening recently, and I thought, oh, I wonder. And it was just after Nvidia had hit a new high and had overtaken Apple. And I'm like, oh, watch out, right? Well, I wonder what that is going to mean for the stock the next day. And guess what? It went up again. So it didn't have, this effect of a freeze effect where people are really worried about the government stepping in and hurting or ruining any kind of innovation. How should we think about regulation here? Look, it's an amazing sector. It's an amazing company, and it's off to the races. I typically think that Washington tends to be behind these things, but that's not going to stop them from trying to elbow their way in.
Yeah, and you have Lena Khan now at the FTC, who has her fan base both on the left and the right, very concerned about Nvidia, sort of she kind of almost has expressed that she wants to nip it in the bud, right? So they're very interested in like kind of the potential monopoly power. And look, the Nvidia has pricing power. There was Larry Ellison told a story last year from Oracle about, he and Elon Musk went to sushi somewhere in Silicon Valley with Jensen Huang, and he said it was an hour of
Jen-Hsun Huang,
begging.
of course. So just so everyone knows, the founder,
The founder,
NVIDIA.
yeah.
Great story himself. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, we should get to that. But it was an hour of sushi and begging. They were begging him for these chips for their data centers because it's like it was the only game in town. So when you have those two guys begging you for product, that's a pretty good sign.
Yeah,
of
you're going to have a
power.
lot of pricing power. Yeah, for sure.
So there's regulatory. I mean, look, a $3 trillion company that's kind of a natural monopolist that's going to invite a lot of scrutiny. Yeah. And that's not surprising. And there's other risks too. I mean, it's easy to kind of fall in love with the story and look back at the value creation and the personal story of Jensen Huang and the potential of AI. There's a lot to like here, but there's quite a bit to worry about too. If you're kind of new to the stock or thinking about investing in it. One thing I would out of the gate really kind of highlight is, thinking about it in a portfolio context. So Nvidia now is about 6% of the S&P 500. Mm-hmm. It's about 8% Incredible. Of the NASDAQ 100, about 4% of the MSCI ACWI, which really tracks like the entire world, all global equities. So if you're in kind of like any index funds or passive funds, you actually like have quite a bit of exposure already, to Nvidia. Congratulations, right?
Yeah. So good.
Yeah, but it's like something like 35% of the S&P 500's return year to date has been Nvidia, which is up 140% year to date. So, be mindful of that because that's a different situation from almost any other stock out there. The average stock you might have in the S&P 500, it's by definition, 0.2% weight, right? So it's kind of immaterial. Here, we're talking about 6%. And, I think per the meme that you referenced where, it was that picture of Nvidia like holding up the falling apartment building. Mm-hmm. That's, if something goes wrong with Nvidia, that's not going to be helpful for the stock market.
Oh, no, I know. So I wonder if Lena Khan is thinking about this. By the way, I'm sort of surprised it took her this long. I think I found this meme. Let's see if I can put it on. I'll see if I can put it up for people. But, I wonder with Lena, I mean, I'm like, where have you been? Like, this is your moment, girl. And it's taken her a little while. And I wonder if that's in part that they're just mindful of like, if this stock falters, it's going to look really, really bad.
Yeah. The thing is, though, it's not illegal or against antitrust laws to kind of naturally have very high market share. What's unlawful is when you engage in like mergers and acquisitions or illegal practice. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, take a look. Look at that. The entire market, Nvidia, doing its hard work, holding up everything. Wow. Okay, so finish your thought. So in other words, it's not illegal.
It's sort of, you're allowed to be the dominant player if you get there, if you kind of earn it. Mm-hmm. What the only tools they really have is to say like if you kind of cheated on your way towards market dominance. But being dominant is not in and of itself unlawful or against antitrust laws. Yeah. But while regulatory is a concern, I think another kind of major long-term concern is the fact that basically all of their products are manufactured by Taiwan Semiconductor in Taiwan. And Jen-Hsun Huang was born in Taiwan.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a coincidence or not, but
well, a lot of the semiconductor industry has been over there. I mean, one of my points that I make sort of on a macro, more national security standpoint is you got to be thoughtful about that because it actually, I mean, that's pretty tough. Like if we're so reliant on Taiwan, we need to protect Taiwan, which just launches us into more challenges with China, et cetera. I'm a big believer, right, in onshoring so much of this because even if it's not as quote unquote cost effective, I think from a national security standpoint, it kind of pays for itself. I'd like to see more of this come back to America. I didn't realize that they had still so much of an operation over there in Taiwan.
Yep. So
Yeah. Okay.
one of the reasons Nvidia is so profitable is that they're a capital light business model, right? They don't do their own manufacturing. It's like Coca-Cola. They sell the syrup, they sell the intellectual property, and then the bottlers deal with all the messy logistics and distribution, all those costs.
Mm-hmm.
Nvidia has over 60% operating margins. They have very minimal capital expenditures relative to their sales. So that's why it's an immensely profitable company. The flip side is you've got Taiwan Semiconductor basically doing all your manufacturing for you, and they're the best at it, right? And they're an over 10% revenue customer for Taiwan Semi. But let's think this one through. If there is a confrontation over Taiwan, a clear risk factor for a
Sure.
company where nearly 100% of its revenue kind of relies
Well,
upon.
it's a clear risk factor. Let's be very clear for like everything. I mean, we just talked about how heavily weighted the S&P is in terms of Nvidia, but it's everything, right? Like if that actually happens, let's hope that we're not seeing that day anytime in the near future, because that just presents a whole other set of risks for sure. But Nvidia, I think everybody's talking about it. Your kid is asking you to buy it. Everybody's wondering if it's too late. I mean, I think you're presenting a pretty compelling case on both sides, right? And we encourage people to do their own research. It's actually not in our American resilience portfolio, though I know it's in your personal portfolio, and I've of course written about it a lot. But there's a lot of other ways too out there, and I know that you talk about this, to even play this space, which is important to think about. So if it's like too much risk for you, there's other ways to think about stuff.